goes from being a reed valve issue to being a carb issue to now being a lever adjustment issue. Yay!
If you're new here, take 1 second, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and get ready for an awesome episode.
Perfect! It was garage. Bring us your machine of choice that we can turn from what it is to what it should be. Give thanks.
Alright, let me begin. Now you see we take off the tape and everything to make sure there wasn't any moisture. We check in right now to ensure that there isn't anything that shouldn't be in there before we start the process. What we're going to start doing now is we're going to start cleaning out any excess carbon that's there so that we can ensure that it's as clean as possible. If you could see on the paper there, it's pretty black, and as I said, we're trying to just clean as much as we can without doing as damage as possible. So as you're I'm using a flathead screwdriver, pretty long and thin, and what's necessary is you just gently coast it inside the piston. You don't want to gouge anything, and you don't want to leave any paper behind. Alright, now I've just placed that insert in the opening to ensure that when I remove material from the surface, and I'm doing this to ensure that the surface is flat and clean of any debris, so that when I mount the actual valve that it's mated and seated properly on it. Now I remove the paper. Get a little closer, you can see what's going on. Oh yeah. Now remember, we got to do this on both sides, so take note. Just want to clean off the surface. You're not gouging, you're not trying to resurface, you're just trying to make sure this mating surface area is clear. So now we're placing the valve in, making sure that the orientation is where it should be, screwing it down. I believe, yeah, we're going to torque it down at this point as well. Like I said, make sure it goes down as evenly as possible. Alright, now we got the valve separated, and we can go install it on the inner cylinder. The reason we're doing that is because you can't install it with it complete due to clearance. There you go. Now put the top hat on. Show you that, guys, again. Yeah, it just slips on like that from a different angle.
So does that just sit in there like that's the natural sort of position of it?
Yeah. The orientation.
I see. I can feel it. Yep.
The orientation is really, there's an indentation on the.
Yep. I can see that.
On the other side, yeah.
I feel that.
And there is marks here. All right.
Yep.
Those marks will just sit flush there.
Yep.
And there's this keyway that keeps the blade in place.
Yep.
And orientation, they just wanted this inboard because the air hole. So the exhaust, when the exhaust comes, so do you know how a piston engine works? It sucks in gas, compresses the gas, spark happens, the spark pushed down on the piston, and then the piston comes back up and the exhaust is pushed out. When the exhaust is being pushed out, the pressure, there's a vent hole that comes out of this area here into this port, which then pushes the bellow up, which brings this knife blade up, which is a valve that allows more exhaust to come out of the engine. And they keep it closed for low end torque performance. So if it was left open, it would run horribly, as you're currently having now. And having it closed is what's supposed to give you that low end torque.
And then the exhaust somehow makes its way.
No, the exhaust is now this pipe here.
Oh, right, then blows out.
It's double manifold, where the actual exhaust is wrapped around the water jacket, which is which is why it looks so big, because it's actually being sprayed water into it to cool the exhaust from overheating. That's why it's and all those little ports you see, these lines in here connected to them, because they're spraying water on top of it to cool it. Very simplistic engine, actually. There's also a rotary valve, I believe if this one's correct, where the engine is turning and there's a blade that that opens and closes a port on time. So there's no actual valve, it's just a blade passing over a port that opens and closes your intake.
So what would cause a blade to snap like that, dude?
I didn't get a right answer, but I believe it's bad material and just harmonics. Because they've had these this is an issue that has happened back in the 90s or in older engines. I think the newer material they're using for the blades are better now, but they were brittle and they were breaking off. It's a known issue, which is why they say you need to service them frequently, so you know what's going on. Some of them they've actually broke off a big chunk of the blade broke off and damaged the actual piston itself. It's like I'm hoping that's not your issue, but I don't believe it is. Because you say it was running okay before, right? Mm-hmm.
And it all happened after I sucked up that rope.
Okay. That's interesting.
After I pulled that rope out.
And that's when you felt the difference?
Mm-hmm. After I put it back in the water.
So hopefully when he puts it back in the water this time we feel a difference that's better than he did before. So, but moving on, we're going to now put on the top hat, screw that guy down. I believe that's a 10mm screw. You don't need to over torque it, you're just going to bottom that down until it's fully tight. At this point, you are then going to put the spring on onto the bellow. Like the easiest way to do it is literally just to push the top hat all the way down, and normally the bellow will just slide over top of it. So now we're using the spring is a little tricky. It takes a little finesse to put this guy on. I must admit, I had a little trouble myself trying to get her on there. As you would see in my attempts, it's not something that an average person should attempt, because you can't overstretch the spring for the diaphragm, which would cause it to not retain itself in operation, and also
don't just put a cardboard sign outside.
Right. Get something, like, even if you got to spend $300-400, get a company to do up a nice. I mean, you can do it yourself. Make sure it looks professional.
I agree with you in terms of
because if you're an artistic guy, you can make something look professional, and you can put it. I mean, good grief! I can help you dig the 2 holes, and we'll put the posts in and get it up, right?
I was thinking of doing something in stone. Like I was actually what you're thinking there. Make it look. Fit the picture that people want. So make it look a professional, clean shot. The sign is everything. I was thinking of like having something engraved in stone or having a nice wooded something.
Yeah. And make it look good.
Okay, cool. I'll take that into consideration. 'Cause yeah, that's kind of where we are right now in terms of if I'm going to invest into something.
Guy, you've got a skill set that you need to take advantage of.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I think it's more just the timing of everything.
So despite the good conversation, I still had trouble putting it on. So the issue was when I was pushing pressure on to get the spring situated, it would push the actual valve down. So I just needed a helping hand and a spatula, let's say a Teflon spatula, to just hold the valve in place as I got the spring on.
Thank you, sir. That's great. Thanks. Great hands.
Alright, now we do the same on the other side. Push the top hat down. Actually now we're putting the spring on. Pushing the actual top hat cap on. And there's the spring that goes on top of that. And then there's the actual locking of the cap with the metal retainer. it sits on a little offset. It is a little tricky and finicky to get in place. As again, this is all about finesse. You don't want to force anything. You want to make sure everything lines up and everything kind of finds its happy place.
Well, hopefully that's the. Well, I mean, it needed to be done regardless. So.
All right, whenever you're ready to pull me out.
You want me to pull it out?
Please, thank you. All right, thank you, sir. Oh, good.
There we out. Look at that.
Perfect.
You're injured. I was so happy to hear that. Goes to show that everything was done properly. Now it's just a matter of verifying everything is sounding nice through its paces. So we're going to put it in drive, bring up the RPMs. This little tap, as it settles down. Checking to make sure everything's okay. We chose to start the left engine first, and this is where we're realizing something wasn't quite right. Couldn't really get the engine to settle down. But at this time I wasn't too sure what it was, as I'm not too sure what the engine was supposed to have sounded like in the first place, in terms of I'm not a specialist at this point. So we're just going to put it through its paces and see what we can figure out.
Did it always idle that high before, do you know? Because the one engine's idling higher.
I'm gonna turn that one
Yeah,
off.
forgot. Keep forgetting.
I just turned the engine back on just to try to get some water pressure out of the line. And basically you're doing this just to keep the water pressure from doing any damage to the engine. That's why Seadoo recommends to only apply the water on while the engine's running to ensure that your house pressure doesn't blow any seals. So again, we're just running through his paces trying to figure out the RPM status here.
Do you remember it having that issue before?
Originally, no.
So
Yeah, I didn't see that there actually. No, we're good. We're sorry.
what we can figure out is that it's running, it's up to snuff, but we're having an idling issue. So we got to figure out how to bring down the idle of the engine and do it, and not too sure exactly at this point how to efficiently do it. All I know is that we have an issue to deal with. So at this point, we're just trying to do some quick troubleshooting just to get a reference point as to what the real issue is. Because we have a good understanding of what the problem is. It's just a matter of where the actual issue is. So we're just trying to, right now, as I can tell you, as I'm in the future, we're in the wrong part of the engine. We're in the wrong end of the problem. We're at the engine. The actual problem lies at the throttle, but as you can clearly see us right now, we're just trying to figure it out.
Where the carburetor is. I need to look at the car. As you said, something happened. But this engine is running too high of an RPM.
Do you want me to go up there and do that? And while you look?
Sure.
At this point, I'm just trying to figure out how the RPM noise in terms of what was the RPM at, just to figure out what was going on. Because I was realizing that the number 1 engine had more throttle response as per the number 2 engine. As you will see, I can't bring it down, it's stuck at a high. Even though I'm feathering the throttle, you can clearly see that it won't drop.
So yeah, I gotta find where the throttle, not the throttle, but the adjustment for the carburetor is exactly. I see if we can adjust the carburetor, because that's right now what the issue is. Right now, somehow it's split. Yeah, somehow your RPM is split and you're having more RPM on this guy than you should. And that should just be adjustment of the throttles. Why it went out of whack, can't tell you why. I can just tell you what you can do now to fix it.